Imagine this. The world is chaos. Everything is spinning. People are reacting. But you're still unshaken, focused, calm. That isn't a fantasy. That's mastery. And you can access that power at any moment. See, most people live like passengers on a roller coaster, chained to the ups and downs of the outside world. But calm and focus, those aren't external conditions. They're internal skills. They're a neurochemical state, one you can train. The first thing you must understand is this. Your body listens to your mind, and your mind listens to your attention. When you focus on problems, your body prepares for survival, fight, flight, stress. But when you place your attention on possibilities, on presence, the body relaxes. Your brain shifts. You are no longer surviving. You are creating. Staying calm in chaos is not denial, it's decision. A decision to not let the external world dominate your internal reality. This is how the few rise above. They breathe, they observe. They choose focus over fear. They become the eye of the storm. You're not here to react to life. You're here to design it. And the moment you commit to mastering your emotions, your mind becomes the compass. Not the storm, certainly, Ashir. Here's an expanded version of Key Point No. 1. Calm and focus are trainable inner states, not outcomes of perfect circumstances, in 5 in-depth paragraphs, written in a tone aligned with Dr. Joe Dispenza's style, grounded in neuroscience and consciousness. Yet deeply motivational. Most people believe that in order to feel calm, their life must be calm. That to feel focused, their environment must be quiet and free of distractions. But this belief is one of the greatest illusions of modern life. Calm and focus are not gifts handed to us by the world. They are states we generate from within, regardless of what the world is doing. If your inner world is always dependent on your outer world, then you will forever be enslaved to circumstances, constantly waiting for the noise to die down before you can think clearly. But those who live intentionally, who master the internal world, don't wait. They create calm. They command focus. The truth is, your brain and nervous system are constantly adapting to the signals you feed them. If you're always responding to chaos, scrolling through stress and running on urgency, your brain wires for reactivity. Your baseline becomes tension. Tension. But here's the power. The same way a body builds muscle through resistance training, your brain builds focus and calm through repetition. Every time you slow your breath, every time you shift from reaction to observation, you're training a new neural pathway. One that says, I am not the chaos around me. You are literally changing your brain chemistry through conscious attention. Focus is not about silencing the world. It's about silencing your internal noise long enough to prioritize what matters. This is why some people can perform under pressure while others collapse. It's not because their lives are easier, it's because they've trained their nervous system to respond differently. They've taught their body that uncertainty doesn't mean danger. They've conditioned their mind to trust that clarity comes from within, not from a perfectly controlled environment. And this training isn't mystical. It's physiological. It's neuroplasticity in action. The challenge, of course, is that the modern world is designed to hijack your attention. Notifications, emergencies, stimulation everywhere. It constantly pulls you outward. And when your attention lives outside of you, your power leaks with it. Calm and focus begin the moment you reclaim that attention. The moment you close your eyes, slow your breathing, and bring your awareness back inside, into the body, into the breath, into the now, you are practicing mastery. You are telling the mind, I decide where we go, not the phone, not the noise. When me, that decision, repeated daily, changes everything. So when we say calm and focus are trainable, we mean it literally. Just like lifting weights shapes the body, focused attention shapes the mind. Meditation, breathwork, visualization. These are not soft practices. They are mental conditioning. You are rehearsing the experience of peace before the world gives you permission. That is the mark of inner power, to feel unshaken not because life is perfect, but because you are practiced. You've built a brain that knows how to stay grounded in the middle of a storm. Absolutely, Ashir. Here's an expanded 5-paragraph version of Key Point No. 2. Your body follows your mind, and your mind follows what you focus on. In a style that mirrors the depth and energy of Dr. Joe Dispenza. Again, without naming him. The relationship between your body and your mind isn't random. It's deeply interconnected biologically and energetically. Most people walk around thinking that emotions just happen or that stress comes out of nowhere. But in truth, every physical sensation, every heartbeat, every chemical in your bloodstream is responding to the commands of your dominant thoughts. The mind gives the signal, and the body obeys. If you think anxious thoughts, your body produces cortisol and adrenaline. If you think empowering thoughts, your body produces dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. It's not philosophy, it's chemistry. Now, here's where it gets even more powerful. Your mind doesn't act on truth, it acts on focus. It doesn't care whether what you're focusing on is real, imagined, or remembered. In the good bit, the moment you place your attention on something, a fear, a future event, a possibility, your brain fires neurons and creates a biological response as if that thing is happening now. So if you constantly focus on what's missing, what's wrong, or what might go wrong, your body lives in that reality. And eventually, it begins to expect stress, expect chaos, and even becomes addicted to it. This is why people get stuck in loops. Their mind keeps focusing on the worst, and the body keeps reacting. And that physical reaction reinforces the mental focus. It becomes a feedback loop. The body tells the mind it's in danger, and the mind finds more evidence to support it. But the great news is, this loop can be broken. When you intentionally shift your focus, the mind begins to shift. And as the mind shifts, the body starts producing new chemicals, new rhythms, new emotional states. You literally begin creating a new physical experience through focus alone. Focus, then, is not a passive thing. It's a tool, a steering wheel for your life. When you focus on gratitude, your mind enters a state of appreciation, and the body begins to heal. When you focus on peace, your brainwaves slow down, your heart rate balances, and your immune system strengthens. Most people try to changing what's around them. But the shift begins by changing what's within. Your focus, your thoughts, your interpretation of the moment. So the next time your body feels overwhelmed, tight chest, racing heart, anxiety, you don't have to wait for it to pass. You can interrupt it by going to the source. Your mind. And the fastest way to shift your mind is to shift your focus. Ask yourself, what am I giving my attention to right now? Because the quality of your focus determines the quality of your internal world. And your internal world is what your body is responding to every second of every day. Of course, Here's an expanded 5-paragraph version of Key Point No. 3. External chaos doesn't have to create internal chaos. You have the power to interrupt that pattern. In the same elevated mind-body awareness style, it's easy to assume that when life gets loud, messy, and uncertain, our inner world has no choice but to mirror that chaos. Most people live in this unconscious agreement. If something out there goes wrong, I must feel broken in here. But that is a conditioned response, not a truth. The truth is, external chaos only becomes internal chaos when we hand it permission. The pattern of reacting emotionally to every disruption was learned, and anything learned can be unlearned. You do not need to match the frequency of the storm. You can become the signal of peace instead. Think of it this way. 2 people can go through the same crisis, loss, rejection, uncertainty, and respond in completely different ways. One panics, the other pauses. One spirals, the other breathes. What's the difference? Not the event, the pattern. The first person is letting life dictate their inner state. The second is choosing to lead their nervous system rather than be led by it. That's the power we forget we have, the power to pause, to breathe, to observe, and to interrupt the emotional reflex before it becomes our reality. Patterns are automatic until they are seen. Once you bring awareness to the moment you start tightening, reacting, or spinning mentally, you introduce space. And space is the doorway to choice. You can say to yourself, I feel the pull to panic, but I don't have to follow it. That's not denial. That's emotional intelligence. It's training your system to stay rooted in presence even when everything else is trying to pull you into survival. That single moment of awareness can change your entire response and the results that follow. You see, every time you interrupt a stress pattern, you weaken its power. The brain begins to rewire. The old triggers start to fade. You stop being someone who gets dragged by life and become someone who drives their experience. That's the real revolution. Not controlling what happens, but controlling who you become when it happens. Inner chaos is not a requirement. It's a habit, and habits can be broken. They can be replaced with calm, clarity, and grounded focus, but only when you stop blaming the world and start reclaiming your internal authority. This is the heart of all transformation. Realizing that chaos doesn't enter you unless you open the door. And if you can observe your reaction long enough to pause, you can change the story. You can become the calm in the storm, not because life is perfect, but because you have become different. You have taken responsibility for the one thing that has always been within your control, your inner state. Absolutely, Ashir. Here's a 5-paragraph expansion of Key Point Now 4. The stress is a habitual neurological response, but so is peace, with practice written in that deep transformative tone, rooted in neuroscience and human potential. Stress isn't just an emotion, it's a physiological pattern. It's your body running an ancient survival script hardwired into your nervous system. When your brain perceives a threat, real or imagined, it signals your body to prepare for danger. Heart rate increases, muscles tighten, digestion halts, and adrenaline surges. This is the fight or flight response, and it's incredibly useful when you're facing actual danger. But the modern mind triggers this same response over deadlines, bills, social media, and imagined fears. The body doesn't know the difference between a lion in the wild and a stressful thought on repeat. The response is the same, and over time, it becomes your default. Here's where it gets profound. Just as the brain learns to live in stress, it can also learn to live in peace. Neurologically, stress is a repeated signal that wires the brain into a specific pattern. The more you react, the more you reinforce the neural circuit of tension and fear. But if you can teach your body how to feel safe, present, and relaxed, even in uncertainty, you begin rewiring your brain for a different experience. That's the science of neuroplasticity, the ability of the brain to change itself based on what you practice, feel, and focus on repeatedly. Peace isn't the absence of problems, it's the presence of regulation. And regulation begins with awareness. The moment you notice your stress reaction kicking in tight chest, racing thoughts, clenched jaw, you are at a crossroads. You can go down the old road of automatic reaction, or you can pause, breathe, and activate a new signal. That signal might be stillness. It might be gratitude. It might be a grounding breath. Every time you make that choice, you send a message to your nervous system. It's safe to relax. It's safe to be here. That signal, repeated, becomes the new habit. What most people don't realize is that peace must be practiced like any skill. You wouldn't expect to play the piano fluently without repetition. In the same way, emotional regulation is built through consistent self-awareness and intentional shifts in focus and breath. This doesn't mean you'll never feel stress. It means you'll stop letting stress run the show. You'll recognize it, greet it, and choose not to identify with it. Over time, your baseline shifts. What once triggered panic now meets presence. What once overwhelmed you now becomes manageable. And that shift is not magic. It's muscle, mental, emotional, and neurological muscle. So if you feel like stress controls you, understand this. It's only because that's the pattern you've practiced the most. But peace is just another pattern, a new one. And your brain is waiting for the instruction. The moment you start practicing peace, not occasionally, but consistently, you begin to train your body to feel differently. You stop living as a reactor and start living as a creator. Peace becomes your baseline, not because the world calmed down, but because you did. Fun. Absolutely, Ashir. Here's a 5-paragraph expansion of Key Point No. 5. Being calm is not weakness or passivity, it's strength and presence. In the same high consciousness, mind-body mastery style, in a world addicted to urgency, calmness is often misunderstood. Many mistake it for indifference, weakness, or inaction. But the truth is, being calm in the midst of pressure is one of the rarest and most powerful forms of strength. It takes far more courage to stay centered than it does to react. Anyone can explode. Anyone can panic. Anyone can get swept up in the noise. But to hold your ground, to remain emotionally sovereign when everything around you is demanding a reaction, that is presence. That is mastery. That is the kind of power that doesn't make noise, but moves mountains. You see, calmness doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care deeply, but you refuse to be hijacked by emotion. It means you can engage fully without being consumed. True calm is not the absence of emotion, but the presence of discipline. It's the ability to feel without becoming reactive, to think without being clouded, to respond with clarity rather than compulsion. And this ability is born from inner stillness, a space inside that is not controlled by the environment, but grounded in intention. People who embody calm are often the ones who create the most change, not by force, but by frequency. Their energy speaks louder than their voice. They carry a stillness that steadies the room. Why? Because they've done the inner work. They've learned to observe instead of absorb. They don't need to match chaos with chaos. They neutralize it with presence. This is not passive. It's powerful. It's the strength to sit in discomfort without running, to lead through uncertainty without crumbling, and to remain compassionate without collapsing. The truth is, calmness allows access to a higher intelligence. When the brain is in survival mode, triggered, anxious, or angry, it shuts down creative thinking, empathy, and problem solving. But when you are calm, your brain enters coherence. Your heart and mind begin to sync. You access intuition, foresight, and wisdom that simply aren't available when you're reacting. In this way, calmness is not just emotional, it's strategic. It gives you access to deeper insight, better decisions, and authentic connection. In short, calmness is a superpower. So let go of the idea that calm is passive or weak. It is, in fact, the ground that strength stands on. It is the container that holds vision, clarity, and truth under pressure. In the moments where most people lose themselves, your calmness can become your greatest contribution. Because when you master your presence, you don't just change how you experience life, you begin to change the lives of those around you. Absolutely, Ashir. Here's the 5-paragraph expansion of key point now. 6. A breath and awareness are your first tools to return to calm and focus, written in the same grounded, neuroscience-informed yet elevated style. When life gets overwhelming, the mind tends to seek complex solutions. We search for something to fix the situation, something external to regain control. But the truth is, your most powerful tools are always with you, your breath and your awareness. They cost nothing. They require no technology, no permission, no escape from your environment. In fact, when everything feels like it's spinning, these two tools are often the only way back into clarity and presence. Because when the mind races and the body tenses, the breath is the first to change, and the first you can change back. Your breath is your remote control for your nervous system. It is the one part of your autonomic system you can consciously influence. When you breathe shallow and fast, your body interprets that as danger. Neuroscience has proven this. The more often you think a thought, the more neurons wire together to make it your default. But that wiring can be changed through repetition of new thoughts, new focus, and new beliefs. You are not locked into your old mental programming. You are the programmer. Every time you redirect a limiting thought and replace it with an empowering one, even if it feels unfamiliar at first, you are sculpting a new version of yourself. You are no longer reacting from the past. You are creating from the future. So don't fall into the trap of believing you are your mind. You have a mind, just like you have a body. And you are here to master both. The real you is the awareness behind the thoughts, the still presence that can see them without being consumed. When you begin to live from that space, thoughts lose their grip. You no longer fight them or fear them. You simply choose, and in that choice, you step into freedom, into conscious creation, into peace. Absolutely, Ashir. Here's a 5-paragraph expansion of key point no. 8. Mastery begins when you choose not to react, but to respond with intention, written in the same conscious, empowering tone. There's a defining line between a life lived in reaction and a life lived in response. One is automatic, wired by past experiences, old emotional habits, and unconscious patterns. The other is intentional, anchored in awareness, grounded in choice, and aligned with who you want to become. Mastery begins the moment you recognize that you do not have to obey your first impulse. You can pause, you can breathe, and you can respond from clarity, not conditioning. That is the beginning of personal power, not controlling the world, but controlling how you meet it. Reaction is fast, emotional, and often fueled by fear or ego. It's what happens when you let the situation dictate your state. Someone criticizes you, you lash back. A challenge appears, you shut down. These are reflexes, not decisions. But when you respond, you are no longer a puppet to emotion. You create space between the trigger and your action. And in that space, you decide, who do I want to be right now? What energy do I want to bring? What outcome do I want to create? That moment of conscious choice is what separates reactivity from responsibility. The more often you choose to respond instead of react, the more you rewire your nervous system for stability. You stop being a slave to impulse and start becoming a creator of energy. This isn't about suppressing emotion, it's about mastering it. Feeling the charge, acknowledging it, but choosing your behavior anyway. That's real strength. That's real leadership. And that's what elevates your presence. Not just what you do, but how you do it, consciously, calmly, and deliberately. Intentional response also creates ripple effects. When you stay grounded in tense moments, others feel it. Your presence becomes a calming force. You elevate conversations, you de-escalate conflict, and you start becoming someone who doesn't just survive storms, but transforms them. Over time, this way of responding becomes your default. Your identity shifts from someone who reacts to life to someone who leads their life. And that's where true freedom begins. Not when life gets easier, but when you become stronger. So mastery is not about perfection. It's about direction. It's about choosing who you want to be in the moment you're most tempted to forget. That's the forge where transformation happens. Not in comfort, but in choice. Over and over until it becomes who you are. Not someone who reacts out of fear, but someone who responds with vision, with presence, and with power. Absolutely, Ashir. Here's a powerful, grounded, and uplifting conclusion that brings together the message of the full speech in alignment with the tone and spirit of the key points. In a world that pulls your attention in 100 directions, that rewards reactivity and rush. Choosing calm and focus is a radical act, but it's not impossible, and it's not outside of you. It begins with a breath, it deepens with awareness, and it expands every time you remember that you are not here to be ruled by emotion, noise, or circumstance. You are here to lead from within. You are not your thoughts. You are the one observing them. You are not your reactions. You are the one who can choose a response. And you are not powerless in the face of stress. You hold within you the tools to shift your state, to rise above the noise, and to create peace even when the world feels far from it. That's not weakness. That's mastery. That is strength and presence. So the next time the world around you feels chaotic, don't ask, how can I control this? Ask instead, how can I remain conscious in the middle of it? It's the moment you choose stillness over noise, breath over panic, response over reaction. That's the moment your life begins to change. Not out there, but right here, inside of you. And that truly is the secret. Staying calm and focused no matter what happens is not something you wait for. It's something you become